This will include the steps you will take in every combat sequence, as well as a few common situations you'll find yourself in. First, let's go over the absolute basics. Combat is an action that can be initiated by the hunter on their turn. You can also enter combat when an enemy near you activates. Whenever combat starts, you'll follow the same steps, regardless of whether you initiated combat or the enemy initiated combat. Let's start. Step 1, declare your attack. This is your chance to place a stat card on your weapon. You'll gain any benefit from that card immediately unless the card specifies a specific timing. For example, if I place a draw 1 card on the weapon slot, I get to draw 1 card immediately when I place it. This happens before the very next step of combat. Keep that in mind. Step 2, flip an enemy action. This is where you'll find out what your enemy is going to do. Remember that the enemy deck contains 3 basic attacks, 2 special attacks, and 1 ability card. You can use this knowledge to your advantage when planning steps 1 and 3. Let's flip a card and see what they got. It's a basic attack. Step 3 is your chance to dodge. This is where you'll place a stat card to avoid an enemy attack. Stat cards with the dodge keyword must be placed on an attack slot of equal or greater value. Other cards without this word cannot be used. Also note, you gain any benefit listed on this card when placed. Many dodge cards will also say, clear this slot, which means the slot is cleared and the card is placed in the discard pile. This takes effect immediately, just like the draw card in step 1. Note, this does not affect your dodge in any way. You will still dodge even though the slot is now empty. Finally, step 4, resolve attacks. This is where we find out what actually happens. The attacks will resolve from fastest to slowest. In this case, the Scourge Beast, Quick Swipe, is the fastest attack, so it will resolve first. It's going to do 2 damage to us. However, if you remember, we dodged with our Quick Cut slot. That enables us to avoid all damage. Next, our attack will resolve at medium speed. Our attack deals 2 damage to the beast. We deal 2 damage. At this point, there are no additional steps to combat. Combat has now ended. If this combat was initiated by the hunter on the hunter's turn, then the hunter is free to take another action. They can move away, initiate another combat, or go to the dream. If this combat was initiated by the enemy during its activation, then the next enemy will now activate. There are no enemies around, which means no more enemies can activate in this case. Now that there are no enemies left to activate, the hunter's turn is officially over, and the next hunter can begin their turn. Let's rewind a bit and look at some common situations. First, what if we attack with Quick Cut instead of Slash? We'll still get to use our draw 1 card, and we will draw that 1. Well, during step 2 of combat, we learned that our speed is equal, and there's no possible way we can dodge. Remember, dodging has to be at the same speed or faster. But there is no way we can dodge at the same speed because our slot is already full. So what happens? Well, that means we will deal 1 damage to the beast at the same time that they deal 1 damage to us. Whenever 2 attacks are equal speeds, they happen simultaneously. We deal 1 damage, the beast deals 2 damage to us. Now, this may not be a bad idea. if we had previously reduced the beast down to 1 HP before we initiated this attack, and then we did a quick cut, and he does a basic, well, even though we take that damage too, so would the beast, and they would be dead. We'd gain 1 blood echo, but we would still lose 2 HP from the beast attacks. If we were down to 2 HP and we attempted this, well, we would die the same time as the beast, and any blood echoes would be lost. So remember, attacks resolve in step 4 from fastest to slowest, and equal speed attacks happen at the same time. How about this situation? Now we only have 1 slot open to attack. Well, there's a few ways we could approach this. First, we could play an attack and hope that the beast draws a basic attack. So I will play my draw 1 card again. Then we'll draw the beast attack, and lucky for us, it's a basic attack. Since it drew a basic attack, we can use our pistol to stagger it. The hunter pistol, when an enemy makes a basic attack, automatically stagger that enemy. Note that there is no speed requirement for the pistol. The only requirement is that the attack is a basic attack. The enemy would be staggered, no damage would happen to us, and we would still deal 1 damage to the enemy. But what if we attempt this and our pistol is already used? Or what if the beast used a special attack instead of a basic after we place our card? Well, our only option in this case would just be to tank the hit. We would just take the damage. Do remember, though, that our quick cut would resolve before their special attack, because their special attack is slower. However, if they did the basic attack, our quick cut, of course, would resolve at the same speed. Another option is to wait for the enemy to activate. There is no rule that says you must attack the enemy. We don't have to initiate combat. We can sit back and let the enemy come to us. So in this case, I'm going to end my turn with 1 card left. It's a dodge card. Step 1, declare attack, would be empty. I'm not going to declare any attack here. Step 2, reveal the enemy's attack. It's a basic swipe. Step 3, we have a chance to dodge. We can play our card to dodge now in step 3. Remember that this happens immediately, so we will clear that and discard that card, but we are still dodging at a fast speed. Now, let's resolve. No attack from us means there is no damage to the beast, but the beast's quick attack is dodged. So, we didn't do any damage, but the beast didn't do any damage to us. It's a very defensive way to play, but sometimes that's the best choice. Now, we cannot do anything after this, even if we had another card, because we had already ended our turn. Once the enemies are activating, your turn is over, and you can only react to them. One more situation. Let's say we're really lucky, and we have 2 dodge cards in our hand. For step 1, place a dodge card to attack. Yes, that's right. A dodge card can still be used to make an attack. Now, clear this slot, triggers immediately, and does not cancel our attack. It clears. We'll discard it. Step 2, we're going to find out the enemy drew a basic attack. We can dodge that with our quick cut because the slot is still open in step 3. We'll discard that one. And now resolve the attacks. No damage is done to us because we dodged it, and we will deal 1 damage to the beast. You may have noticed that dodge cards can be used to attack. In fact, any stat card you have can be used to attack, but only cards with the dodge keyword can be used to dodge. Also, clearing a slot happens immediately, just like draw 1. So if you choose, you can use the same slot in the same combat sequence. Here, we use the same slot to attack as we use to dodge, because we had 2 cards that said clear this slot. Okay, let's finish up this video with one more basic combat principle: attacks versus abilities. Most enemies will have 2 attacks and 1 ability. The 2 attacks are labeled basic and special. These attacks are pretty much identical in how they interact with the steps outlined in this video. You can dodge or stagger these attacks using your stat cards. They have a speed that will determine when they hit you in step 4. The only difference between a basic and a special usually is that your firearm can only stagger basic attacks, not specials. But what about abilities? They're a completely different color to indicate that they operate differently. Abilities cannot be cancelled or dodged normally. Unlike basic and special attacks, an ability happens instantly, unless otherwise stated on the card. So, to return to our 4-step process, step 1, you declare your attack. Step 2, the enemy draws an ability. Now we have to read the ability and see what it does before we even bother to dodge at this point. Unfortunately, abilities act in many different ways, so there's not really one way to handle them all. However, unless otherwise stated, they happen instantly and cannot be dodged or staggered. I plan on making a video in the future where I go over various abilities and how they interact with the hunter, but right now that's too much for a basic combat video. Okay, this covers the basics of combat. Future videos I plan on making will cover all of the hunters and their weapon, the firearms, all the stat cards including upgrades, all the tools, and of course the enemies and their attacks, as I already had mentioned. I hope you like this, and I hope this helped you understand the basics of combat. If you need help, there's lots of help over at BGG. The community is really nice over there. Remember, a hunter is never alone.